Open cookbook. Here is my chocolate recipe that I use for making chocolate. One of the things I like to do is I like to cut the butter, because now I can cut it in like smaller stripes that I'm doing right here. Now I have the machine currently on at a 2. Now of course you can't see it in this overhead view, but I have it to its 2 setting. I like this pot because if you like to do like chocolate other ways outside of like melting it in like a little silicone like pot, you have to like boil water and like use a steam bath like and heat like glass or whatever. Like really carefully like heat the chocolate so you don't burn it. So, let me say, I use a pretty standard, like great value chocolate chip here. It's semi-sweet, and it doesn't really matter because I'm going to add like sugar to this anyways, but I use about 1/2 of a cup with this recipe and 1 full stick of butter. Yeah, my little like cup guy here. I like to overfill it, but it's one of those things where, you know, you kind of get what you want out of it. And like I'm saying, with the chocolate, when heating this stuff up and so forth, this pot makes it so much easier. And you can pretty much like put it anywhere on outlet. Like I said, yeah, I forgot. Like I said, I was adding sugar, so I added 1 tablespoon of sugar. And I kind of mix that in a little bit, but now I have to go like, you know, grab some salt here really quick. And the thing about salt is that salt is really powerful. You can get away with adding a little more sugar, kind of like affects like how the chocolate tempers and melts and all that stuff, but salt heavily affects the flavor, so you want to use a very, very small amount of salt. A pinch is probably all you really need, but I use about like say this is 1/2 of a teaspoon, and I use 1/2 of that. It's about 1/4 of a teaspoon. And you know, you can use less salt than that and be perfectly fine, but if you start using too much, it will really throw off your flavor. Like I say, you just mix this up. Now this process takes time, you know. A lot of times I'll like kind of like walk away for a little bit to allow the chocolate to temper and melt, but I stir it every once in a while. In the beginning, I just try to, you know, make sure enough contact is with the pot so it heats up everything pretty quick. But, you know, it takes a little bit of time. Also, I like to recycle the butter paper. You know, I reuse it on my skin later, you know, for like, you know, adding oil to my skin. Or in this case, literal butter. It's good. I feel it helps. Don't know. Just a little trick I do. Yeah, other people do other things. I happen to try to reduce, reuse, recycle as much as I can. And once again, focusing on reducing your consumption and reusing things, aka repurposing. Recycle is the last step, because when you're recycling, you have to use new energy inputs into something, therefore it's pretty wasteful. You want to first reduce your consumption if you can, aka be efficient. And then reuse things and repurpose things, so therefore something gets a second use, therefore you don't have to produce a new product. Recycling should be really the last step. But, you know, that's, you know, my environmentalist coming out. You know, and I have a very different take than other ones, but, you know, it is whatever it is. Yeah, like I say, I'm a little bit different. This stuff does take a while to melt. But yeah, when I'm melting this stuff, I use this recipe for all like my chocolate needs. Now the most important thing about this chocolate is even though it will be like stable at room temperature once you've tempered it, I still like to keep it frozen whatever I make with it. It's very rich and flavorful. And now depending on like how large or big what you do with this current one, you might get some discoloration. In other words, like you'll see some like butter that's kind of like not the chocolate brown color, that's usually when I do something really thick. Whatever. That's why if you add a little bit more chocolate chip, you usually don't have that issue. But, it happens. But like I say, flavor-wise, it really doesn't affect anything. It's more just, a visual aesthetic. But like I say, I like to keep this chocolate frozen. And that's, I feel like, usually the best way. Now, you can just sit it in the refrigerator, too. That'll be fine. And like I say, it can sit at room temperature. But, just like any candy bar, it can melt. And, get that, that chocolate stick. And, to avoid that, keep things in freezers or chilled. Yeah, so like I'm saying, like this recipe is like my open book. Effectively, like this is how I like to make chocolate. And I do this because like when you're like making like handmade gifts or so forth, I find that's usually better. And especially candy making, because like anyone can like go to like a store and buy some like chocolate candy bars or whatever, but when you have like your own recipes that you can't go to the store and buy it. I have like all sorts of candy I make, and you can't buy it anywhere. So when I give it as a gift or something, people, they get a little more excited. Because it's nice to get something you can't get at the store, and someone like, put effort into making this. Now, with this like, melting it in the little pot method here, or this little silicone pot, this little candy melter, you're not making a whole lot necessarily at once, but this actually does make a sizable amount of chocolate. I make about 8 full-size candy bars. And when I mean full-size, I mean like not like oh, this is a little full-size candy bar, like actual like full-size because they're thicker, chocolate candy bars. Of course, they have fillings in them, and therefore it's not like a pure chocolate bar. But like a lot of the candies you make and like or eat or consume have not that much chocolate in them. They're mostly filling. Like for example, Butterfingers, they're mostly filling and just a small chocolate coat on the outside. Reese's peanut butter cups, something I really kind of like specialize in, is making a lot of peanut butter chocolate candy. That really is very little of chocolate, a lot more peanut butter filling. And when you start getting too much chocolate, it kind of throws it off. That's why when you get those like Reese's peanut butter cups that have like the thicker amounts of chocolate on, why they taste so different than the thin ones, it's because the chocolate to peanut butter ratio. So like I'm saying, like you can see how it melts out here now. And you gotta stir it kind of like, as you stir it, you're trying to like melt all those little chunks of butter. Now if I would like say chop them into even finer bits, it'd go quicker, and it'd been like faster. But still gets the job done. Just takes a little bit more effort at a time. And normally you can just kind of let this thing go off and do whatever you want while you're prepping something else. Like I would like be having this like make, and then I'd be like, let's say running like one of my stand mixers or whatever to like a peanut butter filling or something, or I'm like prepping some type of secondary ingredient, multitasking in the kitchen. So you don't have to sit here and like really stir this, but to speed up the process, I stir it a bit. And once you get it down to like a reasonable like level, usually you want to set the machine down to like, this one has 2 settings, 3 settings: off, level 1, and level 2. And once you get like most of the way melted, you want to set it back to level 1. And like I say, there's plenty of heat in there to melt the rest of it. You just have to like let it fully melt. Just like if you ever like did like organic chem stuff, and you had that little machine where you looked in the little looking glass, and you have to wait for like your melting point reactions. Chocolate's no different. It literally is just a melting point, and therefore even though something's at that temperature, it might not melt immediately, but if you take it too high, you will burn it. So you gotta let it take the time to fully melt. Increasing in temperature is not a good thing. That's why these pots are really nice, because they really make it foolproof. You don't have to like worry that you're gonna burn your chocolate. And when you burn chocolate and overcook it, lots of weird things happen. Like I've had a lot of fun stuff like making like other products because I cooked it at too high of a temperature. And it's kind of like how you like get taffies and like caramels and all sorts of stuff. Overcooking things. I mean, caramel itself is just like basically a sugar cooked product that you just boil it for like X amount of time and eventually turns into it. But that's neither here nor there. It's just letting you know that sometimes when you let things go too hard at too high of a temperature, you do change the things. This is chemistry right here, but you don't think about it because it's food. Because you don't like to think about food as chemicals. So when you're making chocolate, the main thing is you don't want to take it over a certain temperature. So that's why you dial it back. Once you've like got most of it melted, dial it back. Also, this is something I like to do around spooky season anyways, because people like candy. I also do it for other people's birthdays and other events and everything else, because you can have for like any season, any festival, whatever, candy. There's nothing wrong with candy. It's great for everything. Everyone likes candy. And if they don't, well, that's their problem. Or you just haven't found the candy they like. And, chocolate's pretty universal. There might be a couple people who don't like it, but that might also be because of the type of chocolate you've paired it with or whatever. But yeah, there we go. This is pretty much just me melting my chocolate. Like I say, that's a reminder in a recipe. It's 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1/2 cup of chocolate chips, semi-sweet's what I happen to use, great value, whatever, 1 full stick of unsalted butter, and about 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. If not, just a small pinch. You really don't need a lot.